This is exactly the kind of question which yesterday's brief look at credit cards, you remember I introduced that idea, will equip you to do. So just have a look at it with me and let's read together. But have a pen in your hand while you're reading. 2011 HSC, it's multiple choice for this one. A television was purchased for $2,100. Okay, I'm going to start doing some highlighting as I go through here. $2,100. They tell you the time that it was, the date rather, that it was purchased, the 12th of April, using a credit card. Simple interest, that's something worth highlighting, was charged at a rate of, they give you the interest rate, and I'm not just going to highlight the number, I'm also going to highlight the time period that comes with it, because sometimes you'll be given monthly interest, sometimes you'll be given daily interest, and as you can imagine, that has a big impact on how you do the question. There were no other purchases on this credit card account. There was no interest-free period. Now, just before we keep on reading, what that means is, what I mentioned before, do you remember what that special number of days was that I told you yesterday? 55, okay. Now, that's an industry standard, but depending on the kind of credit card you've got, maybe you don't have enough money or you don't have a mortgage, which is a big source of credit cards. If you don't have that kind of thing, then maybe the credit card you're going to get doesn't have an interest-free period. That means the 12th of April, as soon as you've made this purchase, they start charging you interest. Okay, we'll keep going. The period for which interest was charged included the date of purchase and the date of payment. So in other words, the 12th of April, that's one of the days they're going to charge interest. They don't start charging us the next day. Okay, now the actual question. What amount was paid? What amount was paid when the account was paid in full, and then they provide the date that it was paid? Okay, so you can see, the first thing you can see is I've chosen a horrendous color, so let's fix that. You can see that there's a whole bunch of information there that we need to kind of weave together. Before we start to actually write out our solution, I want to point out that when you have a look at all this information in front of you, you can start to tag some of the things based on the fact that this is a simple interest question, right? So what's the formula that comes into your mind when you see that? I equals PRN, okay? So if you jot that down there, you can start to look at this and say, well, what's the principal? What's the rate? What's the number of time periods? Okay, so have a look, for example. Where is P? Where's the principal? It's the 2000. Frequently, it's the first number that you see, right? So I'm just going to label that P for myself, okay? The interest rate, that's another thing that's easy to spot. Where is it? 19.74. So I'm just going to chuck an arrow in there. Now, when you get to N, that's a little bit trickier. They don't tell you the number of years or months or days. You kind of have to infer it and calculate it. What information will I use? Yep. The April and the May, right? Like I need both of those dates together. The number of days in between, that's going to be N, okay? Can we quickly work that out? There's some days in April and there's some days in May. There are January, February, March, April. There are 30 days, okay, in April. Now, keep in mind, the 12th is included, right? The 12th is included. So the way that I think about it is the days 1 to 11, they're out, right? You don't have to worry about those. But all the other days, they're going to charge you interest, yeah? So if there's 30 in total, but 11 of them you haven't made the purchase, how many days in April do you get charged interest? 19. In addition to those 19 days in April, there are 20 days in May. 19 plus 20, right? So the N that I'm after is going to be 39, and you can see where I get it from. Does that make sense? Okay, now one more thing before I actually put pen to paper to put the solution down. That will tell me the interest, right? Am I being asked to calculate the interest?
No. The full amount.
I need the full amount, don't I? Now, obviously, I'm going to need the interest, but the full amount, here it is. The full amount is not just the interest, it includes the purchase itself, the principal, right? So the actual amount that gets paid is going to be principal plus the interest, which is PRN. Does that make sense? Yes? Okay, right. Now, just because we can all see this together, I'm going to try and squeeze this in here. So I know what all of these numbers are. I've put the effort in to identify all the bits in the question, so now I'm going to substitute. This is turned from a an FM question into an AM question. I'm just substituting into algebra. Okay, so let's have a go at this. Principal 2,100 plus principal again. Now, when I get to this R and this N, right? You guys know, you've seen some of the questions. Sometimes you have to convert the interest rate to a different, like per month, per day, whatever. And sometimes you don't. Do I have to convert in this case?
Yes, because it's per annum.
Okay, so because it's per annum, I have a choice, right? The number of days that I worked out, I can say that's 39 out of 365 days, right? So I can change the N. That's how much of a time period it is. Alternatively, I can say, oh, thanks, Ash. I can say, how much interest do I get? Well, each day, that percentage, right? What was it? 0.1974. I've written it as a decimal, okay? Each day I don't get 19.74%, thank goodness. I only get that divided by 365, right? That's how much, it's a tiny little bit, but it happens every day, right? Times 39 days. Do you see?
Do it on either side.
I can convert the interest rate, or I can convert the number of time periods. You're dividing one number by 365 or another. You'll get the same answer at the end. Okay. All right. I've lined it all up. The last thing that's required is to press the buttons on that thing. Okay. So has someone beat me to it? Has someone got a number?
That's a no.
That is a no. I'll wait for you. I'm guessing it's going to start with 2, 1, 4. At least I really hope. 4? Okay. So it's always reassuring when you have an answer and it lines up with one of the options that's in multiple choice. So there's option C. Question.
So why did you wouldn't you put 39 over 365?
Okay. Yeah, that's a great question. So the answer is I can if I want to. Let's consider what I would do if I were to write it like that. I'm going to write PRN all over again, right? Here's P, the principal. Here's the rate. Now, when I say M, this is what I was alluding to up here, right? When I say M, I'm like, well, this is how much of a year that 39 days is, right? How much of a year? Well, but just have a look. Can you see this line here versus this line here? Do you see they're the same thing? Whether I divide here or divide here, you can do them in any order. It's really the same thing, okay? So you can go ahead and you can crunch the numbers in your calculator if you like to content yourself that you will get the same 2,144 at the end. Okay.